Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
We start the week with a very interesting topic. Is the combination of cities and ICT technologies. It could be said smart cities, but I think that I like the title because it's wider, no? That not only smart. Okay, so thank you for joining us. And as we have 4 different speakers today, I will pass the turn to Vasco Lagarto immediately, but not without giving him a big thanks, not only for today, but for all the previous session, more than 100. I think that Vasco has been in near every one of them. 120, for your information, is 111 today. So thank you, Vasco, for all your great contributions, and the floor is yours. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, I missed one because that day I had to go to visit the Secretary of State of Economy, but it is a pleasure to be part of this group. Well, I start to thank my colleagues, Daniela Monteiro, Luis Antunes, and Rafael Caldeirinha, that will be also, they will be the main actors, in fact, the main actors, because I'm just going to make a small introduction, and after I will pass the screen to them. Antonio, can you give me the presentation right?
Yeah. You have it.
Okay, let me see. You can see the screen now?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So again, thank you for the invitation. We try to do our best, and as I said before, I have the cooperation of 3 other colleagues from different entities. We have not the opportunity to align our talks, let's say, but I hope that we can perform like a jazz band. And in fact, I'd like to thank again to these colleagues for their effort in the preparation of this session. As everybody knows, I think that the United Nations in its agenda, 2030 agenda, considers ICT as a means to promote socioeconomic development and protect the environment, increases resource efficiency, achieve human progress and knowledge in societies, upgrade the existing infrastructures, and modernize the industries on sustainable design principles. Thus, the potential of the smart city approach made possible by ICT has been also investigated by the United Nations through the study in big data and also through the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And in particular, there is an urgent need to develop and implement innovative data-driven solutions and sophisticated approaches to overcome the challenges of sustainability and urbanization. Sorry. I have to move a little bit the things. Okay, so a smart city is an innovative city that uses information and communication technologies and other means to improve quality of life, efficiency of urban operation services and competitiveness, while ensuring that it meets the needs of present and future generations with respect to economic, social, and environmental aspects. So cities are becoming a very important ecosystems with impact in the social economy development of their space. And in fact, For instance, recently, there were some thematic priorities that were agreed for the European urban agenda, like, for instance, jobs and skills in the local economy. This is something that we have already talked before. And in this case, I'm thinking not only about the role of skills in ICT, but also the way ICT can help in the education process and so on. And here I think that we can think about serious games or about augmented reality. So some tools that can in fact help all the education process. We have in these thematic priorities, there is also the urban poverty, the housing, well, the inclusion of migrants and refugees, the sustainable land use, circular economy, that is also an important area that we have been talking the last days, with all the impact on the climate, the problem of the energy transition, the urban mobility, the quality of the air, digital transition, the innovative and responsible public procurement. And in this case, I think that cities can have a very important role on this recovery process, because, as I mentioned before, they are becoming very important actors in this economic or social economic process. And recently they have had this other two subjects: security in public spaces and also the cultural heritage. We can see quite a lot of information in this site. Well, I'm not. I tried to move this a little bit up, but so in this site you can see quite a lot of information from different cities of Europe. I think is important and nice to look at them. So after this introduction, I would ask Daniela, that is working in Porto Digital, that to start her presentation. So Antonio, please, can you give the presentation rights to Daniela?
Thank you, Vasco. Done. Daniela, you have the presentation right, I think. Welcome.
Good morning. So I'm trying to navigate here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, right. So I'm just trying to navigate here. I come from Porto Digital, but maybe I'm not being that digital right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you see an invitation to share your screen?
Actually, I didn't. If you could again.
Sorry, you should have one invitation to share your screen in the screen. Accept it, please, if you can.
So this is not working so well. So maybe I can just so you don't waste your time. I'll keep trying, and well, I'm not receiving the invite. Maybe you could repeat.
Would you prefer to jump to another speaker? And if you want, you can send to Vasco or to me the presentation, and I can share the presentation from my screen if you want.
Oh, actually, Vasco has the presentation, so maybe he can share right now.
Vasco, do you agree?
Vasco already has the presentation, so he can share right now.
Yes. Okay. I'm going
to... Please, yes. If you could, Vasco.
Yes,
and I'm
just
sorry
a moment,
for this setback.
And I will put it in on the screen.
And on the screen. Yes, you have my presentation.
Sorry for this
setback. Maybe I can maybe start explaining who I am and what Porto Digital is, because this is the beginning of my presentation while we don't have the presentation set. Sorry for this setback. So Porto Digital is a private organization owned by the municipality of Porto, the University of Porto, and Metro of Porto as well. And it works as an innovation agency for the municipality. My role at Porto Digital is to support the connection between the city and the companies. So that's why Vasco invited Porto Digital, and here this as a market. We have this vision of having the city as this connector between players, where we can develop an actual market. And Vasco was right now speaking about this need for recovery and how cities can be so important in this process of recovery and of bringing a whole new economy and supporting a whole new economy. So if you don't mind, next slide, please. Just to give you a little context about Porto, we are a small, medium-sized city with 1.8 million people on the urban area, not only in the city, but on the urban area. And in terms of innovation, we have more than 350 startups mapped in this area, more than 70 R&D centers, more than 50 incubators and workspaces, a lot of tech communities that are developing their activities on a formal and informal ways. So there's kind of an ecosystem in place for innovation. We have the university, which is a big institution providing not only talent, but R&D, high qualified R&D, and also the Polytechnical Institute and a few more private higher education institutions. So there's this innovation ecosystem in place. Next slide, please. If you want to explore this ecosystem in more detail, Vasco, if you don't mind to share the next slide, you can take a look at this map where you will find the stakeholders in place here in the city. Speaking of the city as a market, you have a lot of dimensions to consider. And why is it important to think about the city as a market? And why is it important to involve all these dimensions? How have we been implementing our vision of this city as a market? And why is it important for us as governments, local, national, and regional? Why is it important for us as citizens? But mostly, why is it important for us as Europeans to take this vision and to move forward towards this vision? Next slide, please. So here in Porto, we have been gathering these several dimensions, and one of them is the technology. So we have to have this technology in place to be able to support the digital transformation of the cities, to implement more sustainable and efficient services to our citizens, to have better management. And that's why Porto has been investing on implementing and developing its own technological infrastructure. The city of Porto owns its own digital fiber and optical fiber and Wi-Fi infrastructure. It manages it and it owns it. And also, there's a big effort to develop these projects of censoring, on collecting data and making data available as well for a better and more efficient management. On the next slide please, you will see this is a picture of the final review of Synchronicity, a large-scale pilot project that took place for the past 3 to 4 years, where we, together with other European cities, and not only, also Mexican city and South Korean city, we got together to develop our infrastructure as well to implement standards for to grow our digital solutions and to push for the digital single market. So with the support of Synchronicity, we also developed our urban platform to collect and make data available, not only for the city to use, but only for the companies to use. So this is a vision that we are not developing, not only locally, but in collaboration with other cities. Next slide, please. We can have a technology, but technology doesn't work for itself. Technology is not the end by itself. It's the way to reach our goal. We cannot implement and do this digital transition vision without involving the people. And the people is not only our teams, is also the citizens and communities. What you see here is a picture of Porto Innovation Hub. This was the first place where Porto Innovation Hub operated, and this was a place where the citizens were invited to come to the city and to help us develop our innovation strategy, to understand what are their goals, what are their needs, and have these intervention in our processes of designing our strategies. And innovation is not only for the people that work technology. Innovation is for everyone, and that's why you have here these ladies that are so curious to understand what's happening inside. And actually, these people are involved. If you move to the next slide, please, you can see that we have been doing a few co-creation sessions. What are the needs? Where we have been involving the citizens to understand needs, what do they want to have implemented in their places, in the area every day. This is a co-creation action that we developed to understand what should be done in this area that people really need to give an answer to their daily needs. Next slide, please. And if we work with the citizens, and if we work technology and develop services based on technology for our citizens, we cannot forget that our teams have to be involved and they have to be ready to support us on this process and to be the ones that implement and that are pushing for these transformation. Innovation cannot be something close to a department. It should be something that goes across all the organizations. What you see here is one action of co-creation where we were collecting and supporting the teams, understanding some challenges, so we could actually go to the communities and get their solutions to give an answer to the needs that also the teams have. We cannot forget that we only can implement these technologies that come from the market, that we the people that work with technology want to implement if these teams are ready and if they want to be part of it. Next slide, please. There's this other dimension that really has to be involved to have this city as a market vision. City can be a catalyst for growth and should be a catalyst for growth. Next slide, please. And if you consider that most people live in cities and we have cities as the center where almost everything happens, we should be developing solutions for our citizens, and we should not only be adopting technology that comes from the market, but also allowing our companies to use our cities and to use our infrastructures and our people to develop their own solutions, because these solutions will be for us and for our citizens. And part of this vision is here represented at Scala Porto. Scala Porto is the strategy from the city of Porto to support the development of a sustainable ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And as part of this vision, Vasco, next slide, please, we have the city as a center of this process of implementing new solutions, and a city as a place where companies can come and grow. And cities, we know, I've been working with entrepreneurs for a long time now, and I know how hard they, how they hide from cities, because it's hard to work with public governments. It's hard to be hired by public governments. The public procurement processes are really hard. And we are aware of that, and we need to work on that collectively. But something that we understand is that cities don't have to always be the clients for these solutions. They can also be the facilitators, the connectors, and not be a setback, but being a facilitator for this growth. And that's why when Scale Up Porto was launched as a manifesto at first in 2015, you can see here on point 6 and 7 on the access to markets that we understand that we have to connect the companies and to use the city as a living glass, and also to work in connection with other cities to make these scalable, to support the companies develop solutions that can afterwards be scalable and solve the problems to more people and to more cities. Even though we have been doing a lot of tests and a lot of errors, and we have a lot of lessons learned on what to do and what not to do about this, but this is a very challenging process, but we believe that this is the way to go. Next slide, please. And as I was saying, we don't have to be the clients all the time. We can be the facilitators. And this is one example of a way of being a facilitator. This company that, well, some of you might know, and I know that people here from Porto know them for sure, Vinium. This is quite like a pilot for us as a city as well. Vinium comes from technology developed in the University of Porto and Aveiro, and they needed to use the infrastructure of the city, the IT infrastructure of the city, the Wi-Fi, to support them test and test their technology and develop their products, so they could actually improve it and show that it works. And back in time, more than 400 buses were connected with their technology. The city was able to provide Wi-Fi to the people that navigate in these buses, and also Vinium was able to develop their technology and to understand what would be the way to go. And we were not the clients, we were the facilitators here. We benefited from this project, and the company also did. So this is the vision that we can all together make a reality. Next slide, please. With the Synchronicity Project that I was mentioning before, this is another way for us to test and to learn about this process of connecting the city to the companies and then providing services to the citizens. What you see here is one of the companies that came to pilot in Synchronicity to testing here in Porto, implementing their IoT devices here in Porto that then we used for a time, and we are still using right now. So in Synchronicity, the cities were developing urban platforms. They were developing standards, so they could actually provide a framework for growth and for scalability for these digital solutions. And with this pilot in Synchronicity, by opening the Synchronicity ecosystem to the pilots, to external companies, what we tried to do was to test the scalability of these platforms and to understand if this is actually doable. And this was a big push for us in terms of technology and in terms of connection to companies and understanding how to do this. And here you have our experimentation team, a team that we have that actually translates the language between the city and the companies and supports these two worlds connecting. And they are here working with one of the Synchronicity pilots. Next slide, please. So as I was mentioning, we cannot do this together, otherwise it's useless. And we have been working together with other cities and with other regions to make these a reality, actually to be a platform for growth and for this development of the city as a market. Skill Cities is one of the networks we have been working with on a more broad term as connected to entrepreneurship and to the scalability of startups and tech-based companies. So this is a network that is where representatives from city governments get together to develop projects, to share learnings, and to support the scalability of these projects. Also, on the side of the Scale Up for Europe, we gather regularly to discuss these subjects connected to the scalability of solutions connected to cities, and also to discuss this innovation, the procurement for innovation, which is a big challenge for all of us, I'm sure. Next slide, please. And we are not alone on these, and we are not the only ones that want to keep developing this vision. And maybe some of you already know this Join, Boost, Sustain declaration and movement that we are glad to have been part of the development of the project, not only the writing of the declaration that shaped it, but also receiving the signature moment of the declaration here in Porto. You can move to the next slide, no problem. Here you can see a photo of some of the signatories that were already here signing. When it was launched in January here in Porto, we already had more than 60 cities, regions, and countries being part of it. So this is something that actually brings together more people, brings together more regions, cities, and governments to develop this vision further. And why is it important to join this and to be part of this movement? Because if we do this together, we can have a sustainable Europe, we can provide better services to our citizens, we can use technology for a better purpose while respecting values of diversity, of the digital rights of the individuals that I'm sure that we'll be speaking after this presentation. And we can scale these solutions on another level, support the companies bringing these solutions to the cities, and the cities supporting the companies also developing these solutions, becoming more efficient as governments, more cost effective, and more citizen-centric, developing solutions that actually give an answer to our citizens' needs. These are quotes from the declaration. And if you move to the other slide, and it's my last one, I'm just finishing. These are the principles that this declaration refers to as that must be followed by these regions, cities, and governments to implement this vision. And you have here the citizen as the center of the process, and technology as an enabler, and the digital rights and all the technology that we need to develop to be a part of this movement and to develop a better Europe for all of us. Last slide, finally, move for the last one. If we have a happier city, a better managed city, we will have happier people, and that's what we all need. And we will be a lot more efficient, happier, and more competitive for sure. So that's it. Thank you so much, and sorry for the troubled beginning.
Obrigado, Daniela. Thank you. We have now 2 more speakers. I would suggest you to try to fit your speech to 10 minutes, because if not, we will not have time to speak later between us, okay? But it's up to you. Thank you. I think that now is the turn for Luis Antunes. Luis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So, do you want to have the presentation right?
Yeah, if possible. I have just 3 slides.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Can you see the slides now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. me just put it in full
That's
screen.
perfect.
Okay, good. So good morning all. Thank you for the invitation to be talking here. It's my first time at these meetings. So the thing that Vasco invited me to talk about is something that I've been working for a while now, even together with Porto Digital, the city municipality tech company. And the idea that I'm trying to convince here the authorities here in Portugal is that before become a smart city, we should use technology to keep a safe city. Okay, so before smart, we should keep it safe. Oh, I forgot to present myself. Yeah, I'm affiliated with the computer science department here at the University of Porto also. I'm leading the Competence Center for Cybersecurity and Privacy, and recently I've accepted a challenge to become the data protection officer of the Portuguese Data Protection Authority. Okay, and as I was saying, the thing is that I strongly believe that we should be using all of the technology that we have within the city to make the city safer before make it smart. So I have just 3 slides. This is one of them. So the second one, I hope I can be concise. But let me try to explain the whole rationale of the whole projects where I'm involved, and it's about security and safety. So the idea is the following. We have several sensors spread all over the city, and we are taking decisions based on this data that we are gathering from all of these sensors. And my main concern is that if someone mess up with the sensors and with the information and within the data that has been collected from all of these the sensors spread up by the city, then it's possible, and it's really a threat, that the city hall, they will make some decisions that otherwise they would not make. So let's imagine that in the CCTV cameras that are spread all over the city for traffic control, so someone can mess up with the cameras, and they send a stream claiming that the city center is completely full of cars, and it's not. So the city hall, they will diverse the traffic to other places where in the city center it's completely empty. So, and this is the kind of things that, well, we can think about different threats and a bit more severe. This is just an easy way to explain and motivate what I'm worried about. So, what we propose is to secure the sensors, and for this we need the manufacturer of the sensors. So one of the projects that we have here within the city of Porto is a joint project with Bosch. Why? Because we need the manufacturers of all of these sensors. One of the things that we are working on is an end-to-end cipher system to communicate between the sensors and the city platform. So we should cipher all of this communication. So, and within our security and a complete set of properties that we desire in these communication systems, and they should be secure. So no one should be able to tamper all of these communications, either if it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mesh. Well, we should be agnostic, and the technology that we are developing is quite agnostic from the kind of connection that we have. And from this, we leverage the knowledge that we already have. So we were challenged in the past by the Portuguese government to develop end-to-end secure communication systems, an app that should keep voice secure. And so we are leveraging this knowledge and trying to extend it to this new setting. The next thing is that security and privacy in the cloud. So all of this data, they are being gathering within the cloud systems, within the city and university also, we are getting all of this data. So we need systems like an audit log, audit trail, so to be aware of who has messed up, who has accessed this data, where did it came from, when did it came from. So we need some audit log systems within this data. And then in the monitoring phase, we need to be compliant with the European regulations. So we need to come up with new pseudo-anonymization techniques with privacy-enhancing technologies, so we can use this data. So I usually claim that I've never seen in the European regulation that is forbidden. It's just a risk approach. So we need to take the proper technologies in order to lower the risk, so we can leverage all of this data that we are collecting. In fact, during this pandemic that we are now facing, together with Porto Digital and together with a telco company here in Portugal, we applied for funding. So the main idea is trying to, the Public Health Authority also, they are in the consortium. The idea is, by trying to combine all of this data that all of the partners have, there is, let's imagine that we have from the telco company where people come from and where from the starting point and the ending point. So where they came from and where they work in the city. And if we cross this data with the Public Health Authority data, we can somehow in the public policy make much better decisions in public policy. So we can see that, well, the public transportations from point A to point B, they are under really pressure. So we should increase the number of buses, the number of metros, so whatever. But we need data to take these decisions. Okay, and the idea with this new project that we have with the telco, the city hall, and the Public Health Authority is to leverage on the data that every partner has to be compliant with the GDPR and still be able to take good public decisions, public policy decisions in order to try, well, at least to lower the risk level to have this pandemic, this COVID-19. So, and this is the first slide. The second slide is based on the European data strategy, and to come up again and reinforce our position that we should leverage all of the data that the city is generating and be able to use all of this data for several purposes, not only public policy, but also, as Daniela was claiming, co-creation, open data. We need to be careful with open data, but still, it is possible. It's, again, a risk-based analysis. So this slide, I have just a few figures from the European data strategy, and it's really amazing the value that we can take from this data, not only monetary value, but also to develop new products, to develop new services, and we should be able to extract all of the value that we have within the data that is being generated within a daily basis within the city. So this is the projected figures for 2025, and it's amazing. The increase on the global data volume, it's really outstanding. The monetization of the data, well, it should capture all of our attentions. The number of professionals, here at the University of Porto, we are starting a new bachelor on data science. and the percentage of the population with basic digital skills, it's projected to increase also. So we should not forget that within all of these projects that we are participating, the data that we are generating, it has a huge value. Public policy, code generation, open data, and we should be also tackling this problem. Of course, being compliant with the GDPR, but the GDPR, it's a risk-based approach, and we should be promoting all of the technology that we can use in order to lower the risk. And this is what I have to say about this subject for now, and leave some time for questions and whatever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luis Antunes. And we have been speaking a lot about cybersecurity past week, so it's something that is very, very of high interest for us, as you said. Okay, but now it's time to hear and to welcome Rafael Caldeirina. Welcome, Rafael.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you please give me presentation rights?
I'm
please?
doing that just now. Do you have it? I hope.
I think I have to give. Just give me a second. I think I have to give permission somewhere here on the computer.
Well, Rafael will present something different. Is related with 5G, but in a different way. It's not. It will be also technical, but not as we expect, I think.
Yes, I think I have a problem with the privacy on my computer, and maybe I'll send the presentation to Vasco as well. Maybe you can do that.
Yes, but nevertheless, you can already start to talk because time is
okay.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. So, good morning, everyone. I'd like to present myself. My name is Rafael Caldeirina. I'm a professor at the Polytechnic of Leiria and a senior researcher at the Institute of Telecommunications in Portugal. And I accepted the challenge from Vasco Lagarto to be present today some insights on a project, on a problem that is actually a current problem on deployment of 5G networks in cities. And this is just a project that is about to start. It's called Invisible 5G. And we want to address the challenges of 5G network densification as a key driver for enabling 5G, particularly those arising from site-specific requirements that bring unique challenges to the design and deployment of small cells in urban scenarios at the scale required for future 5G coverage and services. So having said that, and because the presentation is not up yet, what we want to reach at is to find a way of bringing antennas into the street landscaping so that the citizens and the population in general can actually perceive antennas as part of the urban landscape environment. And this is a critical aspect from the technology point of view to make smaller antennas, and those antennas could be sort of integrated into the street urban furniture. And this is where our project is on about. I don't think Vasco can actually, have you received the presentation now? An email?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, but I've just sent it to you now. This is strange because I should be able to present. Anyway, maybe I can just talk over this and maybe I try to explain best I can. So really, if you look at current base stations in cities, they are typically located on the rooftops of buildings. So if you look at the towers or the masts, you see a lot of antennas. And then obviously, if you have different mobile network operators operating in the same city, the number of antennas will be relatively high. So, but on the other hand, if you want to meet the user requirements in terms of bandwidth and data rates and low latency, these are the services which are envisaged for 5G, then you have to move the base station from the top of the buildings down to the street level. And when you bring the antennas to the street level, then those are becoming closer to the users, and therefore you have to transmit lower power so that you can comply with the exposure to radiation as far as the human being is concerned. But on the other hand, by lowering the transmitted power, that will, okay, thanks, Ricardo. I think you can go to slide number 2 now. Okay, that's very good. Yes, please. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so by bringing the antennas closer to the user, you can actually transmit lower power, less power, and you can save on the batteries of the mobile devices. So, and if you on the picture you see this is the typical antenna scenario on the rooftops. You see many antennas, and we want to change this landscape, this technology landscape. And this will be the critical aspect in 5G, because you want to have smaller cells. We want to bring the cells to the closer to the user. So next slide, please. So on this slide here, you see that instead of having the base station on the rooftop, you have the base station integrated or into the urban or street furniture. That could be lampposts, it could be the bus stop, traffic signs, traffic lights, and so bring the base station closer to the user. There are some examples, next slide please. There are some examples on how this can be achieved, and these are typical deployments of small cells or small base stations on dedicated posts, masts, which can be just along the roadside. But then if you have many operators operating the same area, then this could be cumbersome. We could have a lot of antennas. So there are other, next slide please. There are other ideas of, these are some deployments. These are not recommended because they don't fit well within the landscape. So we have to find a nice way of, this is another example of antennas which are integrated into street furniture, but then the level of concealment is very low. So our solution is actually, while maintaining the connectivity that 5G users are expecting from the network, is to integrate smaller antennas. So the first challenge is to develop smaller antennas, closed form antennas that could be easily integrated into the street furniture, so that although they are perceived as antennas, they don't shock from the landscaping point of view. So they are sort of assimilated into the existing or new landscape. So I think, next slide, please. These are some of the solutions that are envisaged, and we want to tackle this in this project. It's called the 5G, Invisible 5G. This is a joint collaboration with the Portuguese Altice Labs, the University Polytechnic of Madrid, and Limerick Institute of Technology in Ireland. So we're trying to bring together, last slide, please. We're trying to bring together the contributions or inputs from the design people, because we need to do a good design. There's a good engineering design we have to reach at and it starts with the design, with the casing, with enclosure, and then we have to have all the materials that could be sort of linked to the actual scenario. If you look at the downtown in a historical part of the city, on a square, an historical square, you cannot deploy an antenna which has a modern style. You have to fit materials that are well aligned with the environment. So it will not, it will be sort of simulated within the landscape. And so I think this project is, we're just about to start this Invisible 5G project. We want to not to change the design of the cities, because the cities have already been designed, but we want to deploy 5G networks into the cities. And for that, we have to bring antennas closer to the user, and we have to be able to design newer antennas, find the appropriate enclosure for the antennas that can be easily integrated into the urban furniture. And I think this opens avenues for research topics, not only on the technical aspects of the telecommunication side, but also on the design challenges and the materials that are used. So this is a change from the existing base stations, typically on the rooftops, to the small cells or the base stations, which are very close to the user. And one could say, well, I mean, being close to the user, you're more exposed to electromagnetic radiation. But that is not the case, because we believe that being closer to the base station will radiate less power, and so will the mobile handset. So that means you don't have to transmit. The mobile handset will not transmit at full blast, so you can have lower levels of exposure. So I think this is the way forward, and we need to look at the specifics, the site specifics of each city, and to develop antennas and casings for antennas that can be deployed in a aesthetical way, and if you like, with high levels of concealment, so that it will not spoil the existing landscape. Thank you.
Obrigado, Rafael. Thank you, everyone. Now we have something like 10 minutes to comment and to add different point of view. Anyone, would you like to comment on what we have seen and hear? Daniel from the Smart City Cluster on Málaga. Would you comment?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
please.
hear you.
Good morning. Hi.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Well, very interesting presentations. Especially this last one was, as you said, quite unexpected, because it is true. We sometimes face when we are talking about smart cities, the challenge of explaining what the smart cities actually provide for the citizen as a benefits, and what are the technologies that we're going to be based on. One of the things is something that we have nearly taken for granted in this time of lockdown, which was that everybody's been doing this Zoom sessions or online video calls, because we have a very good internet connection. Well, this would have happened 10 years ago, and we wouldn't have been able to do this, actually. And you could do this from a lot of places. I think it's very important, and we are used to the very good connection working at home, but also outside, and that means that we need mobile connections, very strong connections as well. I think one of the things that are not very visible but very necessary is data and infrastructure security. Infrastructure is a critical asset, as much critical as energy can be, because with no communications, the economy cannot go forward. And I think it's something that we need to consider very strongly. But one of my main concerns, I don't know if this is the same case with you, is that no matter how much you try to provide examples, support, a roadmap for cities, many of them have their own idea and believe that if they submit to standards or to recommendations that they are going to miss out on their idea of the city, because nobody knows the city as well as they do, and they don't trust general solutions for specific problems. And I don't know if this is the case that you have encountered in your cities. It would be very interesting to find out.
Who wants to comment on that?
Well,
Somebody?
maybe I could say a few words on, just comment on this. I mean, from my technical point of view, I'm more a physical guy, physical layer guy, more on antennas and propagation. And what I can say is that the deployment of a 5G network in cities is quite challenging. One, you have to study where the demand is in terms of users. And if you want to provide a 5G experience, connectivity, then you need to have high data rates. We're talking about 1 gigabit per second, maybe 2 gigabits per second or more. And you can only do that with small cells. So we're going to have like hotspots across the city. And the city itself, it is from the coverage point of view, is quite challenging, because you have the building facades, we have the building arcades, we have trees, which do affect the coverage. So, and if you have the base station on the top of the building, it's very likely that you don't get any coverage, or at least the required signal level that will meet the high data rate, the bandwidth requirement. So all to say that the base stations have to be closer to the user, and the range will be something around maybe a few hundreds of meters, maybe 1 kilometer perhaps, maybe 500 meters. This will be typical the range of small cells. And the cities have not been designed to have antennas placed on building facades, because you need to have permission for that. So because the buildings, they have private ownership, you cannot just hang an antenna on a lamppost without the municipal hall permission. So and then you have the battle between the mobile network operators. So we need to come to a solution that will satisfy everyone. And that it's going to be difficult in my perspective to deploy such networks. On the other side, you need to have not just the antenna, but also the radio units, which would be maybe around 18 liters of volume. So they are large, they're big for street deployment. And you need also to ensure that you have all the power supply facilities and the backhaul connectivity. So you need to have fiber, perhaps to the radio unit connection, fiber connection to the radio unit, also the power mains, the supply. So this is quite challenging, and I think we need to look at our cities. We don't want to damage the environment or the landscape. We want to be able to integrate that, and that has to be done at the very site specific, and each deployment will be by itself a project. my view.
Yeah, Antonio, I can comment also on this last comment. So here, at least here in Portugal, when we adapt the directive on security of network and information systems, the NIS directive, so we included the city platforms as a critical infrastructure. So the National Security Agency that was responsible for the adaptation of this directive, they included the city platforms as a sensitive infrastructure. So it is within the scope of this directive. And the main reason is what we're claiming is that without the platform, the city is completely blind. So it's really important to keep it safe. Okay, so yeah, I agree. And here, at least in Portugal. On the last comment, well, I think it was similar to a vendor lockdown, but not on the vendor, but on the city technician. At least here in Porto, Porto Digital, it's quite open to innovation. So it's quite open to collaborate with all of the universities and polytechnic institutes that are around. And at least as a university professor, I didn't saw any inconvenience on collaborate with Porto Digital. In fact, they are quite transparent, and they allow us to work on their platform. So I'm not feeling that here in Porto.
I'm glad to hear that. Congratulations. Congratulations, because not only because all the presentations today have been very interesting, and I think that we need to speak more, for sure, on cybersecurity and on cities, smart cities. And I really like the idea of behind the project Invisible 5G. So it has been a wonderful session. Thank you everyone. Thank you Vasco for organizing it. Daniela, Luis, Rafael, obrigado. And I hope to see you again soon. Okay?
Yeah.
A pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you to all.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Very good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.